Hello and welcome back to another In Up Weather video. Today we are talking about Winter Storm Nancy, which will be bringing heavy snow as well as some freezing rain, some strong thunderstorms, as well as maybe some flooding rains as well to the eastern two-thirds of the U.S. after it initially brings heavy snow in parts of the mountains of the west. We are now in this period where we're going to be seeing cross-country snowstorms that could be bringing multiple impacts to many different areas, and this is definitely one of them. So, we're starting off here with the Weather Channel page, and at a glance, 2 rounds of snow and ice are expected across the country in the week ahead. The first will blanket the west, northern plains, and upper Midwest early this week, and this storm, named Winter Storm Nancy by the Weather Channel, will be that storm. Current winter weather alerts we'll get to in a little bit, but during the day on Monday, we are expecting some snowfall in the northern tier of the country that will eventually slide down into the central plains, such as, Nebraska, Iowa, maybe even into Minnesota before a low pressure forms and brings in more Gulf moisture to kind of exaggerate some of the threats that we are going to have. Now, this is the Weather Channel's snow and rain outlook, where they are predicting some areas north of Minneapolis to get over a foot of snow, potentially even close to 18 inches. So let's move on here to the National Weather Service page, where we do have many winter alerts. So we have winter weather advisories in Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, south of Minneapolis, and close to Duluth, Iowa, Wisconsin, and New York and Vermont. Then we have winter storm warnings in Washington, Oregon, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, North and South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, with winter storm watches in parts of Michigan as well. As well as that does look like those are some winter storm watches there in Wyoming as well. We do have some very similar colors here with wind chill watches as well. So it's pretty hard to differentiate those two. But let's move on here to our general setup with the NAM 3-kilometer model, where we have our current low pressure bringing some snowfall to areas of Idaho, Montana, and eventually we will see some more snowfall moving into the northern plains, with areas such as North and South Dakota getting some moderate snowfall, and maybe even into areas of Minnesota, where areas north of the Twin Cities, and maybe even including the Twin Cities, could be seeing some moderate snowfall throughout the day. We're also going to be seeing some lingering showers in the west here in parts of Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and generally in the upper elevations we could be seeing some heavy snowfall, while the moderate to heavy snowfall continues in parts of the northern plains. Now, this is the part that we really start to watch, where we have this new low pressure here. It starts to pull up some Gulf moisture. You can see that moisture starting to funnel in the form of thunderstorms in Texas, as well as some moisture in the southeast, as well as some heavier precipitation in the form of snow in parts of the Rockies, and that all starts to funnel out into the central U.S. throughout the day on Tuesday, as we see some more intense rainfall, some thunderstorms possible, some more intense snowfall moving through the plains and into the east and northeast parts of the country before eventually moves out Wednesday and Thursday. So in terms of our snowfall totals, we are looking at a doozy here. Let me reload this real quick so we can get specific amounts. So this storm is going to be mostly a Twin Cities storm, where the Twin Cities over here could see 5 or 6 inches of snow, maybe even up to 8, depending on how those bands form. But just north of there, such as areas like Duluth and Superior and Marquette, could be seeing well over a foot, maybe 15 to 18 inches of snowfall, and potentially in these orange areas, maybe even 2 feet if the bands do line up that way. Now, in terms of the mountain snowfall, I mean, we could definitely see amounts here in the 2-foot range, especially in areas of Colorado, Utah, Arizona, maybe. But the higher elevations will be seeing most of that snowfall. The only areas that will be seeing lower elevation snowfall will be in Montana, Wyoming, mostly. But I just grouped all of these states, these western states, into our. Oh, why are we doing this? Hold up. Here we go. Much better. So the only areas that will be really seeing some snowfall in the lower elevations will be Montana and Wyoming. But I grouped all of those states into the general mountain snowfall range, where as you go higher in elevation, you'll be seeing more and more snowfall. The lower in elevation, the less and less snowfall. But still, in terms of the plains, the target area is going to be areas just north of the Twin Cities into, central and northern Minnesota, northwest Wisconsin, and the western and northwestern parts of the UP of Michigan. Now, in terms of freezing rain, we could see at least a glaze from Nebraska and Kansas all the way through into Maine. Now, in terms of the heaviest spots, we could see potentially a quarter of an inch in parts of the central parts of the lower peninsula of Michigan from this storm system, but the heaviest overall will be in parts of Canada, maybe even Quebec City, seeing a half an inch of ice from this storm system. And in terms of the Northeast, maybe some upper elevations getting a quarter of an inch of ice as well. Now, Chicago could be seeing a tenth of an inch of ice. Milwaukee could be seeing a tenth of an inch of ice. Detroit, not really, as most of the ice will be occurring north of Detroit. Then you have areas such as Kansas City, maybe getting a glaze. The Quad Cities could be getting a glaze to a tenth of an inch. It just depends on where you are. So, without further ado, let's move on into the warm side of this system with severe weather and wet weather. So we covered the general parts of Winter Storm Nancy and the wintry parts of Winter Storm Nancy. Now we have to talk about the warm side of Winter Storm Nancy, which is severe weather and wet weather. Starting off with our convective outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, we do have, this is from 7 a.m. on Monday to 7 a.m. on Tuesday Eastern Time, so adjust that however you will to specific time zones. Both of those Central and Eastern time zones are covered by this. So, slight risk across 87,372 square miles and a population of 9.5 million people across Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, Arlington, Texas, Plano, Texas, and Garland, Texas. And then a marginal risk across 178,040 square miles and a population of 15.4 million people across Memphis, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, St. Louis, Missouri, Shreveport, Louisiana, and Jackson, Mississippi, with tornado risks of 5% chance across 51,329 square miles and a population of 2.6 million people, including Little Rock, Arkansas, Fort Smith, Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas, North Little Rock, Arkansas, and Jonesboro, Arkansas, as well as 99,675 square miles across that 2% risk with a population of 11.9 million people, including Dallas, Texas, Memphis, Tennessee, Fort Worth, Texas, Arlington, Texas, and Plano, Texas. Now, day 3 outlook, which is from 7 a.m. Tuesday to 7 a.m. on Wednesday. We only have our convective severe thunderstorm outlook for categorical, so we do have a slight chance of severe thunderstorms across 62,502 square miles and a population of 4.5 million people, including Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Mississippi, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Jackson, Tennessee, and Decatur, Alabama, and a marginal risk across 120,121 square miles and 10.9 million people, including Nashville, Tennessee, Birmingham, Alabama, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana, and Huntsville, Alabama. So for our models here, we start off with our mixed layer cape, which is the energy for thunderstorms to form. And we will have plenty of energy coming up from the Gulf here into Texas, where we will be seeing blues, which is above 1,000, but maybe even up to, in those lighter blues, up to 1,500 joules per kilogram for energy. And that could spawn up some very significant thunderstorms right along this front here. And as we move into Tuesday and Wednesday, we could be seeing some of that more expansive energy even into Illinois and Missouri, areas that on this categorical outlook aren't in that marginal risk, but still could see thunderstorms because there's plenty of energy getting streamed from the Gulf of Mexico. You have that warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico. You have that cold air from Canada coming into the country, and that is just a perfect recipe for thunderstorm development. Now, let's also look at our significant tornado parameter. In layman's terms, we're basically on our scale of 1 to 10 here, and this is just a composite of models, just different parameters. If you want specifics, there it is in yellow, but basically the higher the number, the higher chance of tornadoes, basically like the Torcon on the Weather Channel. So as we go through Monday, pretty low chance for tornadoes, but then we move into late Monday, and we could see even up to, let me reload this so we can get our actual numbers here. So late in the day on Monday, we could start to see, 1.3, 1.4, and then eventually we could even see areas getting closer to that 2 mark here, but still staying in that 1 to 2 range until, Missouri gets close with 1.6. And then we could see Mississippi get into the action here with 1.1 potentially as well. So even though these aren't huge numbers, there is still a fairly good chance of tornadoes in these spots, as the recipe is there. We do have that warm, moist air from the Gulf. We have that cold air from Canada, and that could will combine to produce supercells, those very strong thunderstorms, those rotating thunderstorms, and those could spawn tornadoes. So finally, let's take a look at our precipitation. Overall, we could be seeing some pretty heavy amounts of rainfall from this storm system. So most of the heavy rain will occur from areas of Oklahoma up through Ohio, with this band of potentially 1, 2, 3 inches of rainfall. But we also have some other areas, such as, the Ohio River Valley, getting generally above a half an inch, potentially most of the region getting above an inch, as well as areas of the Tennessee River Valley getting some heavy rainfall, parts of the Mississippi River Valley as well, and then, of course, those areas that are getting that heavy snow will also be getting potentially an inch of overall precipitation, but of course that will be in the form of snowfall rather than rainfall. So overall, this is going to be a drenching system for certain areas of the country that have seen plenty of rainfall over the past couple weeks. So just topping off on some of those rainfall totals, and we could potentially see some more flood watches, some flash flood warnings from this system if we do see more consistent moderate to heavy rainfall. Now let's move on to my predictions for this storm system. So here are my predictions for Winter Storm Nancy. Let's start off here with snow. In this light blue color here, we have 0 to 3 inches of snowfall. This is mostly going to be areas that either start or end off as snowfall, but are mostly going to be either, freezing rain or sleet. These are mostly areas in the south or areas of the north that will be, not getting as much snowfall. You also have this one area in South Dakota. Since this storm does have kind of 2 parts, you have the, northern section of the storm that kind of drops down, and the southern section that kind of moves up from, of course, the south, and brings in more snow. This area is kind of just stuck in between, stuck in the middle. We also have 3 to 6 inches kind of in between. This has been our buffer zone for a while now. The areas that we'll be seeing the moderate snowfall, light to moderate snowfall, but won't be seeing that heavy snowfall at any point. Those are the areas in that 3 to 6. Then you have our 6 to 12, which is the most widespread in parts of the plains. And that will be the areas that will be seeing that moderate snowfall consistently, or that burst of heavy snowfall as that southern section comes up and fills in some of the areas. Then you have 1 foot plus in those areas that we were talking about before, such as, Duluth and areas north of the Twin Cities that could be seeing those more expansive snowfall totals. Right now I have the Twin Cities in 3 to 6, but they're right near the border with 6 to 12. So it could pretty much go either way there. But then you have all the western states could be seeing that mountain snowfall. As said before, the only areas that will be seeing lower level snowfall, those lower elevations, will be Montana and Wyoming. But all of these western states will be seeing upper elevation snowfall, and the higher up you go, the more snowfall you'll get. So I'm not going to be drawing specific lines for that. That would get way too tiny and complicated. So mountain snowfall everywhere in the west. Then we have freezing rain. So freezing rain is likely in areas of Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, as well as parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. These areas within this red line could be seeing at least some freezing rain, maybe just a glaze, maybe up to 1/3 of an inch. We'll see. But these are the areas that could be seeing that freezing rain. Finally, we have rain. This is going to be statewide totals. So if the state is mostly going to be less than a 1/2 an inch, but we'll see some areas get an inch plus, I put them in that range. So this is basically the maximum amount of rainfall in the state itself. So you can see here in this light green, these are the areas that will be receiving less than a 1/2 an inch of rainfall. Then you have this dark green, mostly for areas of the Northeast, that will be seeing the bulk of the storm come later, and at that point it will be matured at that 1/2 an inch to 1 inch mark. And then finally, this most widespread yellow color, this is 1 inch plus, and this is going to be for the areas that will be seeing that consistent rainfall, especially in areas of the Ohio River Valley, which could be seeing 2, maybe even 3 inches of rainfall. But that is all I have for this storm. Another potentially major winter storm moving across the entire country, and we could be even seeing yet another one later this week. But stay tuned here for updates on Winter Storm Nancy, as well as that next potential winter storm. Subscribe and click the bell so you never miss an update on any winter storms. But that is all the information that I have for this storm and everything that I have for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.